Welcome everyone. In this video, we're going to talk through my take on the Green Aggro Deck. A lot has happened since I last covered this deck a few months ago, so I thought this would be a good time to kind of redo the deck guide from the very beginning. The Green Aggressive deck is great for climbing up the ladder because it has short games and a relatively straightforward game plan. That being said, it still has a lot of tools in its toolkit for having a very dynamic playstyle and reacting to what your opponent is doing. This is definitely a deck that's capable of becoming dummy thick, and even some of the players in the top 8 right now are using variations of this deck. In this video, we're going to first talk through all of the cards that are in the deck. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some tech choices and budget substitutions. After that, we're going to go over the strategy, including the mulligans, and then we're going to hop into some games to see how the deck performs. So the way this deck works is you're trying to have an explosive start, playing a lot of early game, big, oversized green penguins to win the vibe check in order to just very quickly close out the game with 15 cards. So in this deck, we basically start out with our 2-drops being Blossoming Penguin, which is just your standard 2/4. And so this is a relatively large early game penguin. The only penguin that's bigger is Introvert Penguin, but in this deck, having green Pudge is very important, so we can't really play the colorless penguins. And then we also have Penguin Whose Garden Grows. So Penguin Whose Garden Grows is really important because it can become an 8 vibe penguin if you end up tying the first vibe check. So, right, for example, if you and your opponent both play a 2/4, you then play a Penguin Whose Garden Grows. And so, even though you're tied, all of a sudden you're winning the vibe check. In the 3 slot, we basically are running Curious Penguin, which is that 3/6, and that we're running 4 copies of. This works really well with Penguin Whose Garden Grows because if you play this on turn 2 and Curious on turn 3, you're almost guaranteed to win the next few vibe checks. And then we also we do want to run 6 3-drops, and so we run 2 Success Penguins in that final spot. While Success Penguin is not really the largest penguin out there, its ability can be really useful in playing around removal. So, for example, if your opponent is trying to do an Adventure Squad or a Walk the Runway, Success Penguin can counter that, and it also can be useful for that final vibe check. So, I think it's a good utility card, but I definitely don't think that running 4 of it makes sense, just because it's not that often you're useful, and it's often more useful as a threat on the board where your opponent needs to know how to react to it. So we basically are running that as our early game penguins. Then in the 4 slot, we basically are running the Popcorn Penguin Sliding Penguin combo, right? So Popcorn Penguin says at the start of action time, ice a penguin in play that's vibing the least. So this is Popcorn Penguin is very, very good against keeping aggressive decks under control. And then Sliding Penguin can basically boost Popcorn Penguin, which allows it to remove up to 4 vibe penguins. Now, Sliding Penguin is also just really, really good in this deck because, first of all, it produces green Pudge, which this deck needs. On top of that, it also just can work really well at like making your whose garden grows trigger, and it can just help you with like just winning a vibe check in general. Then in the 5 slot, right, we're running Inspiring Story, which also works really well with Popcorn Penguin, but just with this deck in general, because you're just trying to grow faster than your opponent. And then at the top of the curve, right, we're running Romulus. And so Romulus is just 12 vibe, 7 fish. Very often, your opponent can't even deal with a Romulus. So you just ramp out, play a fast Romulus, and there's a lot of games you can just win like that. So that's kind of the core green penguin package. Let's talk a little bit more about the finishers in the deck. So the first finisher we're playing is Hungry Penguin. So Hungry Penguin in itself, it's just great because if your opponent has one big penguin, Hungry Penguin can flop that penguin. And so it's kind of like this like single target removal that can dynamically shift around. And the other thing that works really well with Hungry Penguin is that it works well with WhataTwist, which is the saucy action that says you can only play this action if it's face down as a rod. Flip this card over to play it, choose a penguin and unflop it. So WhataTwist can mean your Hungry Penguin can activate multiple times. Then we're also playing 3 copies of Everyone Stay Clam, which basically just flops all the penguins, draws a card, and then right there's that combo of Everyone Stay Clam with WhataTwist, which can basically just mean you flop all the penguins, then you play WhataTwist and unflop one of your penguins. So one of the finishers is Everybody Stay Clam, WhataTwist. Other one is Hungry Penguin, WhataTwist. And then there's also CleanUpGood, which basically says choose a green penguin in your huddle and unflop it to double its vibe for the rest of the cycle. So CleanUpGood can work really well against, for example, like the caffeine builds or just other hungry penguins. Or yeah, there's a lot of situations where CleanUpGood is actually better than Everyone Stay Clam. So right? Because CleanUpGood also, if your opponent also is running WhataTwist, if they have a bigger penguin than you, which can happen in the case of like a Bunkus, then CleanUpGood is better. So we've talked about every card here except for BounceHouseRod. So BounceHouseRod is just this really great utility card that I recommend playing in pretty much every deck where you're winning a lot of vibe checks, because as you're winning a lot of vibe checks, you end up with a lot of rods. And so then there's often BounceHouseRod. Kind of think of it like you draw a card, and then you can swap that card for any card that's one of your rods. It's a little. The only downside is you can't play a different rod that turn, so it limits you a little bit. But I find that BounceHouseRod is just a really, really good utility card in this deck. The other utility card that we have is WalktheRunway. So this is a piece of removal that basically lets you choose a penguin in your huddle and in your opponent's huddle, and then you ice the one that's vibing the least. If there's a tie, ice them both. So right in this deck, we're not playing any Gotham. So WalktheRunway is pretty much your only removal besides PopcornPenguin. I do like WalktheRunway more than Gotham just because it's more flexible, and in this deck, you always have 2 green Pudge laying around. So it just really allows you to also remove bigger threats, and it's good at reacting. Like if your opponent plays their own piece of removal, you can often counter it with your Walk the Runway. So overall, you just have to be very conservative with it because you really don't have that much removal in this deck. So yeah, so that's the deck list that I've been playing. So let's talk a little bit about tech cards in this deck. So I think one thing you can play around with is how your finishers work. So you right now we're running HungryPenguin, EverybodyStayClam, and CleanUpGood. I think if we were playing a lot of caffeine, I would run 4 CleanUpGood, maybe take out a clam. I think HungryPenguin is definitely one of the cards you could swap for other tech cards as well. So some of the other cards I was thinking about is right, if you're placing a lot of blue, I would throw a Bunkus or 2 in this deck. Right, Bunkus is just so good against blue because even if you're just running 1 Bunkus, it can really help you survive that 1 or 2 extra turns before losing your deck. So because this deck already has a really good matchup against blue, because right, blue can sometimes struggle with decks that are just, really aggressive. I don't really know if it's worth playing Bunkus, but if you feel like you're losing a lot to blue, you can definitely consider playing it. Another tech card to consider is Gotham. So right, Gotham is very, very good against Bizbunk and against yellow. So right, you could definitely consider playing that in this deck if you're struggling with those matchups. I think the one thing about Gotham that is a little yeah, that's a little not so great is just because it's such a good card, a lot of decks are preparing for it, either by playing Inspiring Story or not around anymore. So I found that in the current meta, Gotham just isn't getting the bang for the buck. If you're struggling with Bizbunk as well, there's 2 other cards to consider. You could definitely play some Silent Snow Globe. This deck isn't the best for it, just because a lot of the abilities of the Penguins actually do depend on abilities happening. But you do have a bunch of beefy stuff like Romulus, so you could play a Snow Globe or 2 if you wanted to, or you could play Misplace, which is the other kind of anti-Bizbunk card, because that enables you to kind of lock them out of playing the key parts of their combo. All right, let's talk a little bit about the budget substitutions in this deck. So this deck is actually extremely cheap to build, right? The only rares in it are WhataTwist, Popcorn Penguin, and Romulus. So I think for WhataTwist, you can basically just play Penguin in its place. Um, Juggling Penguin is not as strong as WhataTwist because it can't work with Hungry Penguin, but it does work with Everyone Stay Clam. So I think if you only have like 2 WhataTwists, you could definitely just put in 2 Juggling Penguins in its place. For Romulus, I would just be playing Points Rich. So Points Rich Penguin is a 6'10 instead of a 7'12. Not that much of a difference. So yeah, so if you don't have a full set of Romuli, you can just play Points Rich, and you could even consider a Survives a lot if you happen to have one of those. That could also work at the top of your curve. Like let's say you only had 2 Romulus, you could do 2 Romulus, 1 Survives a lot, and 1 Points Rich, or just 2 Points Rich and 2 Romulus. Popcorn is the one card that there really isn't any direct replacement for. I think if you have to remove Popcorn Penguin, I would then kind of replace it with other removal. So like, right, let's say you only have 2 popcorns and you had a few Gotham, I would just put Gotham in that place. If you have some more slots too in the deck that you can't fill out, some other cards to consider are Escape in Time, right? If you want to just protect your penguins a little bit, I think Escape in Time would fit well into this deck. You can also play more 2 drops. So, right, you could play the Stargazing Penguin. So if you have some extra slots because you don't have all the cards, Stargazing Penguin is not a bad card to put in. You could also be playing, let's see. You could play 2 more SuccessPenguin. You could play Chisel and Stone as well. So this is definitely more for a bit of the slower version of this deck. So if you have there's like this more like mid-rangey version, which is also very strong. So if you go in that direction, Chisel and Stone could actually work as well. If you happen to have any green Mega Penguins, you can just throw those in here. It doesn't really work exactly with like the core concept of the deck, but it is still, it's still just a really strong green card. And then Koi Penguin as well. You should have one from the green starter deck. So if you're missing some cards, Koi Penguin, or even Penguin in color, like a lot of these penguins all work together. So I think in general, this deck is a pretty open green shell. So feel free to put any of those cards in as well to kind of fill out the deck list. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the mulligans. So I think in general, I'm looking for Popcorn Penguin. I'm looking for the two drops, the like penguin, the blossoming penguin, and the penguin whose garden grows. Definitely for Curious Penguin. And then WhataTwist, I would keep a WhataTwist as well. And if I have a Popcorn Penguin, or I probably would keep Sliding Penguin as well if I had a good rest of the hand. And if I had a Popcorn Penguin, I would also keep Inspiring Story. Well, I would keep Inspiring Story in any case if the rest of the hand was strong. So I think in general, just look for a good curve and try to make sure you have at least one 2-drop. If you don't have a 2-drop, I would probably only keep maybe Curious Penguin and full look for it because you are only running 8 2-drops. So it's a little light there and you do want to come off with a fast start. As for the strategy, it's pretty straightforward. You just try to win the board early. Save your removal for key things. So like walk the runway. Just make sure you remove those ascending penguins or the popcorn penguins on the opponent's side. Try to have a good popcorn penguin. Like if you get your popcorn penguin, try to get a lot of value out of it to remove, get at least a 2 to 3 card advantage with it. And then just set up for your final turn. So your final turn is either going to be with EverybodyStayClam or CleanUpGood. And hopefully, because you came off to a fast start, you should be able to get to your final turn, like at a point where you're a little bit ahead on the number of permanents on the board. And right, because it's an aggressive deck, you're really trying to end the game with, only like 0 or 1 cards in your hand. So that's kind of how you go through the game. Yeah, so just try to get all your cards out, win vibe checks, and then set up for your finish. And also, yeah, remove your opponent's key threats. It's pretty much a standard game plan. All right, so that's about the deck. Let's jump into some games and see how we perform. All right, jumping into the first game. So, okay, so what we see, we have a WhataTwist, and we don't really have any of our 2-drops or any of the small good penguins. So I think I'm going to full mulligan. Maybe I should keep the WhataTwist. Okay, I guess I'll keep the WhataTwist. And I'll just hope that I get something a little lower on the curve. All right, so we got a blossoming penguin. So if we can go blossoming into sliding, that would be amazing. But we'll see if that actually happens. So yeah, so okay, so we have 2 WhataTwist, and WhataTwist is so useful in this deck. So it's good that we got 2 of them. So yeah, so let's see. So in an ideal world, we're going to win the vibe check with blossoming penguin. Okay, so then we have Curious Penguin, so it doesn't really even matter if we win the vibe check now, because we can go just 2 into 3 into 4. So we need to think about what we want to save the Walk the Runway for. So okay, so this looks like it's some sort of Bizbunk deck, which means we want to save Walk the Runway for their Ascending Penguin. Now, I think one thing that's a little tricky against Bizbunk is, how do I say this? Like, right, they have Adventure Squad, which is a perfect counter to Walk the Runway. Right, if we play Walk the Runway, they can play Adventure Squad in response. So we'll have to manage that carefully. Okay, so I think we can put CleanUpGood down and just play the Sliding Penguin. So right, we don't really need to have the what's it called? I think we don't really need the finisher. We have the Romulus already, so we're gonna just try to win by just getting out as quickly as possible. And even that, like against a Bizbunk deck, like CleanUpGood is generally not even big enough because right when you play CleanUpGood, right, you're gonna get to what's it called? You can maybe get to like 30 vibe, and right, a bunkus can easily be 40 or 50. So I think the WhataTwist clam comp ending game is better. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have 2 Walk the Runways, so that's really good because yeah, so because then if they play an Adventure Squad to counter us when they play the Ascending Penguin, then we can yeah, we can double play that. Like we can counter the Adventure Squad again, but we'd need more Pudge. I didn't play a Rod this turn because I do want to have both the Walk the Runways for ascending penguins, and I should be able to play Romulus next turn anyway, because, right, I'll get 1 rod from winning the vibe check, and then another rod from my card draw next turn. And so then, yeah, I think if I play Romulus, I have the 2 Walk the Runways. Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to remove the ascendings. So, okay, so we're going to put the blossoming. Should we put no? We'll put the Curious Penguin because they might have not a rod anymore, right? And so if they play not a rod anymore on ascending to try to counter the Walk the Runway, I want to have a penguin as big as possible on the other side. That being said, I also want to make sure to win the vibe check. So I'll choose the okay, so I'll choose the Curious Penguin, get the Ascending Penguin, and I'll flop the Curious Penguin and the Sliding Penguin to leave the Blossoming on the other side. The reason I do that is if for some reason they have like 3 not a rod anymores, they could remove the Curious Penguin. And yeah, so okay, so I think this is good. So we remove the ascending, and I think this is one of the things that makes this deck better than maybe the caffeine builds, because you actually do have that direct removal within the Walk the Runway, and I think that really helps in this matchup. So you don't have to depend on a bunch of tech cards like snow globes. So yeah, so okay, so let's see. Okay, so we got a Hungry Penguin. Hungry Penguin can be really good in this matchup as well. So I think we'll just play the. There's no reason to play the Romulus this turn because okay, so the Hungry Penguin can end up removing a Bunkus if they play a Bunkus out. Not removing, but flopping it. And we have WhataTwist, so we can actually use it multiple times. Um, so we are at we are at 10. So we'll be able to get to what's it called? Yeah, we'll be able to get to 14, not next turn, but the turn after. Okay, so let's just run back the exact same play. So we'll do Walk the Runway again on this ascending penguin. And this match is just showing exactly why Walk the Runway is so important. Okay, so we'll play. Okay, so in this case, I left this unflopped. Maybe it doesn't matter now because we have the Hungry Penguin, but I'm sure yeah, the Walk the Runway has been extremely useful in kind of just delaying their game plan a bit. So it has been kind of annoying that we haven't had a popcorn penguin because it would have been really nice to kind of deal with these penguin who's okay. Because, but I think saving the Walk the Runways for the ascending penguins is definitely the right choice. So let's see what's happening here. All right, so there. Okay, so I'm still 2 turns away from the end of the game. So I'll play 1 Romulus here. I won't yeah, I think I'll just save the other Romulus in my hand because, maybe they have some sort of removal. But yeah, I think it's gonna be like, we can maybe end the game next turn. Because if we end the game next turn, yeah, we should have 1 extra card. It would be good if we had a finisher, like the CleanUpGood. I think that would help us a lot. But, okay, so they're playing the Mega Penguin, what are they gonna get back? Okay, they're getting the Ascending back. So, yeah, so there's a chance that they're gonna try to end the game, um yeah, that they're gonna end the game next turn, right? Because they could maybe go off with a combo. Although they're a little too low to go off with a combo, I think, but they can have a really big turn next turn. So, yeah, so okay, so let's see. So we're gonna definitely set ourselves up on 14. Maybe we even go to all the way to 15, if we don't draw a finisher. Because okay, so we have so many what a twists. So like yeah, so I think we'll just basically just go to full 15. I think we'll play the other Romulus. Yeah, I think we'll just play this because this means that if they have a single piece of removal, like they're gonna have to do more than a piece of removal. And if they happen to play like, ascending into a few big bunkai, we can use what a twist with Hungry Penguin. So we can basically flop 2 penguins if they play big penguins. But I'm also not sure exactly how many big penguins they'll be able to play. Because they only have 19 cards in their ice right now. So yeah, so they'll play the 4th wall. So that's gonna give them, yeah, 25 cards in their ice. Okay, 26. So now they're gonna play, yeah. So I think they're gonna try to play two big bunkai. So then the question is, do they have their own what a twist? Because yeah, if we don't win this turn, we're going to lose the game. I'm pretty sure. So maybe okay. So what is their bunkus at? Okay, I can't really see what their bunkus is at. Um, but I guess I can look at one in the like, they're gonna be just be really big, right? 48. Okay, yeah. So, okay, well, so if they're at 48, that means that they're actually going infinite. So, okay, so they're gonna basically be able to go to any size. Okay, maybe they ran out of time because I think they could have played another one. So anyway, so we're gonna flop with Hungry Penguin. We're gonna flop the Bunkus, and yeah, let's see what they do. Because right, they could have a hmm, yeah, if they had a piece of if they had an adventure squad, that could be a problem for us. Yeah. So hmm, yeah. So I think we're basically gonna lose now because I don't see a way out of this. Right. So we really need a well, no. Okay. So what do we need? We need to get a no, we're gonna lose. Yep. So, because if they like, if we had an everyone stay clam or a, yeah, so what would have helped here? I'm not sure. I guess at this point, right? Because now they're just gonna go off with a combo, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, yeah, so I think this was a bit, trying to think what would have worked because we did remove each ascending penguin the turn it came out. We needed to, I guess, if we would have removed this ascending penguin this turn, we would have that could have worked, but I don't think we would have gotten past this anyway. So yeah, so here they're going to remove their whole deck, and then they're going to play the Bismo. So yeah, so a second Hungry Penguin or a Everyone Stay Clam that final turn. But if we had the Everyone Stay Clam, we wouldn't have had 15. So yeah, so I think. Oh, I know what we needed. We needed a Popcorn Penguin. Just having those two, what's it called? The two Penguin Who's Okay, just going the whole time. I think that was definitely a problem. So yeah, so I think a popcorn penguin would have been helpful. All right, cool. Let's jump to the next game. All right, taking a look at our mulligan. So we have WhataTwist, and we have no small penguins. So I think I'm going to keep one WhataTwist, and no, actually, I'm going to get rid of WhataTwist. I think this is something where because WhataTwist is really only useful in the very late game of the game, and so I think we were just really want to get a good start. Okay, so we have two blossoming penguins, and we have the bounce house. And so with the bounce house, it's really nice because we can just put our finishers like just play them out as rods without needing to worry about that because we can always get them back. So we do need to think about how we're going to kind of finish off the game. And so it's like yeah, so we have both finishers that will be available in our rods, and we have a bounce house rod that we can get them back. So I think that's a really good start. Okay, so I think we're probably playing Bizbunk, but I guess it could be blue. So all right, so we'll just put all our finishers down. We play the blossoming. It's not really a big deal that we only have the blossoming penguins, just because against a Bizbunk deck, right? Even 4 vibe is plenty big to win the vibe checks. So I think, yes, let's see what happens, which direction the penguin goes. Okay, so it's actually blue. So, okay, so against blue, again, we're just trying to be as super fast as possible. I think we're gonna play this bounce house. Well, let's see what we got as a rod. I'm curious. So we're trying just to go like super fast. So we're gonna play this face down and just play double blossoming, right? Because um hopefully we can win this vibe check, and then we'll play the hungry penguin next turn. But it's not guaranteed we'll win the vibe check because blue does have a lot of they could play a penguin with hoops or maybe a sneaky penguin. So all right, so let's see what happens. So they play a wizard. So okay, so with the wizard penguin, we'll still win the vibe check, which is really good because we'll need it for the um right, we'll need it for the hungry penguin. And so then let's see. Okay, so we're at 9. We have 9 cards total now. We'll be at 11. So it's going to be at least 3 more turns. So hopefully um yeah, I think the other thing when you're playing blue is you just want to make sure to be playing a rod every single turn. So I do like the idea of the inspiring story actually more than the hungry penguin. The reason for that is right, if they clear the board, the inspiring story will stay around. So, do I want to keep the bounce house? I do just want to play a rod every single turn, just because. So I guess I'll play this face down. Um, or should I play? Yeah, because the reason I want to play a rod every turn is so that when they clear the board, I have as much remaining afterwards, like so that I'm closest to still getting to 15. So I think in this case, um, I'm actually yeah, plus they do stuff like penguin with hoops to fill your hand. So against blue, my strategy is always play a rod every turn and also just try to just play stuff that will be try to play around having cards left, like, after the board clear, after the, send it too hard. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to win the game before we get there. Alright, so they played Ingenious Idea. So let's see what yeah, so we're gonna get, but I think we just have to accept that they're probably gonna get Ascended Too Hard off, although maybe they won't. So I think as long as we just kind of play all our hand down aggressively, we'll be fine. Okay, Popcorn Penguin is great. So that's definitely what we've been missing is a way to kind of deal with their penguins. So Popcorn Penguin will take care of this penguin who's okay next turn. So okay, so I think still looking like we're in a good position. I think yeah. So the Popcorn Penguin will get played next turn. It would be good if we had something to play with it, but yeah. I mean, even if we just get another, just okay. Well, so the question is, do we want to play the penguin whose garden grows? Because the reason not to play it, I think we just want to play it as a rod, actually, because I already have 3 penguins. So I'm going to be able to play a finisher with 3 green pudge. If they have removal, they're going to use the removal on the popcorn. So um, yeah, so okay, so I think we are in a good spot because yeah, we'll remove the penguin who's okay now because right when you're playing blue, you really want to keep them off of you having 15 cards in your ice. So right now we have 9, so we still can add 6 cards to our ice and still be fine. So um yeah, so overall, okay, so they're going to remove with bedtime story. That's not the end of the world. And we'll see if they'll let us draw one more card. Honestly, we don't really need to draw cards, but I think again, the most important thing is we play a rod every turn because even if they remove our board, we'll still have 9 permanents. Well, I guess at this point it's 12, yeah, 9 permanents. And so we'd really like more inspiring stories, but I can see there's already 2 in our ice. So okay, so they're gonna really go on this removal game plan, but that's not a problem. So if they're individually removing stuff, that means that it's just gonna make their send it too hard not as powerful. So I think we just keep going, keep playing a rod every turn. And yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for them to play something that's bigger than what we have. Just because, right, we already have that inspiring story. So let's see. Okay, so we're at 12. Yeah, so we should definitely go to 14 this turn just to because it's always good to put them like on game point. Again, I want to play the Curious Penguin as a rod, just so that if they do end up clearing the board this turn, we'll be in a good position. We put them on 14, so we do put it like into game point. And so that's just always good because, they don't always have it. So it's kind of just saying like, hey, if you have it, then yeah, then play your cards. But it's forcing the initiative on them. So okay, so they're playing Rod of Cheesy Slices. So they could definitely be setting up for the board clear here because they need to get 4 more cards in our ice. Although I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to do that. I guess if they had a Cannonball Penguin, that would work. So if they had like Cannonball Penguin, send it too hard, that could be a problem for us. But I don't think it would be a problem because right, we're just gonna right after getting our board cleared, just jump right back on the board because we have 11 permanents that cannot be removed by the by what's it called? By they send it too hard. Okay, so they played Inspiring Story. So that means that our Hungry Penguin is going to win the vibe check unless they have another piece of removal. So if they have like a bedtime story, um, yeah, so if they draw like a bedtime story here, because they already used 2 though, so So Popcorn Penguin is not the best penguin for after the vibe check, just because I can't really play that out on the empty board. Like I'll have to play that in response, but it will be still good at controlling the board after the final, after the board clear. So anyway, I think we're in a good spot. Yep, we ended up winning. Cool. All right. So that's a good game for this. And this is why you can see when I was talking earlier about the deck. Well, I don't really know if you need to run Bunkus in this deck. Just because I think against blue, you can just if you have a fast start, it's hard for them to keep up. All right, let's jump into one more game. All right, jumping into the next game. I think I will look at this hand and we don't really have a good start. So I think we will keep Do we want to keep the WhataTwist? Okay, so I think I'm just going to keep one Walk the Runway because removal can be very important. But I think I'm going to not keep the WhataTwist just because I do really want to have a fast start. And the WhataTwist is really only good for the end of the game. All right, so we do have a game where we start out with the popcorn sliding combo, which is good. We don't have a 2-drop, which is not ideal, but oh, we did draw the 2-drop. Perfect. Okay, so we have a good curve, and so the question is, I don't think we need 2 Walk the Runways. If this ends up being a BizBunk deck again, then I think we will regret not having 2 Walk the Runways. But I think in general, we're gonna have a good start of 2. The part of the thing though is the reason I wanted to keep the Success Penguin is Penguin whose garden grows. You often don't win the vibe check on turn 2, so you do really want to have a turn 3 to play with it. So just because it is only 2 vibe. So let's see what happens. All right, so they're going to let's see. So let's see if they're going to have a 2-drop or not, because maybe they will not have one. In which case, we're going to have a we're going to be able to do the Penguin whose garden grows, and win the vibe check and go directly into sliding. So ideally, we want to go like Penguin whose garden grows into sliding into popcorn. But if we don't win the vibe check, then we're going to go Penguin whose garden grows into Success Penguin into sliding into popcorn, or maybe directly into popcorn. It really depends what type of deck they are. All right, so it's going to be another BizBunk. So it's or I mean, it might be a what's it called? It might be not guaranteed to be BizBunk, right? It could be a So we'll play the Romulus as a rod just because I'm not 100% sure. Like all the other cards, I think we're gonna have to go 2 into 3 here. But we'll see what direction the what's it called? The the Penguin who's okay goes, because that's going to determine if it's a BizBunk or a blue deck. It's because right, we played a BizBunk in game 1, and in game 2 we played a blue deck. So let's see. Let's see if it's gonna be blue or BizBunk. And so either way, so if it's BizBunk, it's important to have the WalktheRunway for the ascending penguin. And then if I get a BounceHouseRod, I'm going to get the second WalktheRunway back, just because I really want to move those. So the nice thing is we do have the PopcornPenguin this game. So we will be able to at least, yeah, we'll be able to, and they have the Brainy Penguin already too. Okay. So the question is, do we just want to like slam the popcorn on turn 4? That makes it be possible to be removed by Gotham. But, right, we're not gonna run out of targets here, so and they're off to a really fast start, which is not ideal, because the BizBunk deck can just kind of just go like crazy, and have really strong starts. Okay, so they discarded an Ascending Penguin on purpose. So if they discarded an Ascending Penguin on purpose, I do kind of feel like, they have another Ascending Penguin in their hand. Okay, so we don't need the Blossoming Penguin, so we can go straight into Success Penguin. All right, so it's interesting. They're playing Sick Pull, which is not a common card to see in BizBunk lists. So if they're playing Sick Pull, maybe that means they're not playing Gotham. Just because there's only so much space for Saucy Rods in this deck. So I could be playing the Popcorn Penguin directly on turn 4. That's really the question: is do we want to play Popcorn on turn 4, or do we want to protect it first with the Sliding Penguin? So protecting it first with the Sliding Penguin will mean that they discard 2 more cards. So there's definitely a advantage to, yeah, I think I'm gonna play it a little slow because I feel like I'm still in a good enough position to play this a little slow. So we'll play it. We'll play the Sliding Penguin. We don't need to play a Rod this turn because we're gonna play Popcorn next turn. All right, they're playing Have a Philosophical Debate, which is also a card I don't really see in BizBunk so frequently. Okay, so they're gonna play the Ascending, and so so the question is here. So we are gonna want to play Walk the Runway, and we want to then also so we want to play around pretty much everything. So I think if we boost the Ascending Penguin, then we'll be able to, with the Success Penguin, make the Ascending Penguin bigger. Yeah, so I think we want to boost because I don't want to lose the Sliding Penguin. Like I want this, so I want to use the Penguin whose garden grows on the other side of the Walk the Runway. So I think a difference of 4 is a good one. because with a difference of 4, we can walk the runway, the ascending penguin, and we can leave the success penguin unflopped. And so now if they do a what's it called? The adventure squad, I'll be able to counter that with my success penguin. Okay, but it looks like they're not going to do that. But yeah, I think that's the one like really tricky thing you need to think about, which is how do you manage the ascending penguins? Like, or how do you manage the adventure squad and playing around that? So yeah, okay. So overall, I think we're in a good position here. And cool. Okay, so yeah, so all right. So I mean they are getting a pretty big ice already, but we're gonna get the popcorn penguin rolling next turn. And then we do have the hungry penguin, which will be good to play against if they get one bunkus out. Although, okay, so they have one bunkus already. We don't really have a good, yeah. Yeah, so far we haven't really used our finishers very often. Um, so let's see. Okay, so, well, there's nothing really good in our rods anyway, so a bounce house won't really help us. So let's see here. Okay, so we're gonna play the popcorn. Um, Again, I don't really see a need to play the penguin whose garden grows because we can just play that on a later turn because we're at 11 now. So, right, we're at 11. I mean, 9 plus 2 in hand. So next turn we'll be at 13. So the game has to go on for 2 more turns anyway. All right, so they're going to play another ascending, but so we'll remove that with a popcorn, I guess. So yeah, I mean, the ascending penguins are more important than the penguin who's okay. But the problem is, right, the penguin who's okay has just kind of continued to stay on the board this whole time. So I am, yeah, I'm wondering, um, yeah, should we maybe be worrying about the penguin who's okay? But yeah, we have to get rid of the ascending. There's no way we can't just deal with that. So, yeah, so we'll get rid of the ascending penguin this turn, and then yeah, we'll definitely use the sliding penguin on the popcorn penguin to prevent it from getting iced with a got him. And then yeah, so okay. So then let's see what else. Yeah, so I think yeah, so that will be a good setup here. And then let's see what else we need to do. Mm, okay, so yeah, okay, so we have a finisher in Everyone Stay Clam now. So I think we can just play this a little slow. We'll just play the Hungry Penguin because next turn we'll be able just to play we'll be able to play Penguin Whose Garden Grows and the card we play because worst case we'll play it as a rod. And Everyone Stay Clam only works as a finisher when you're at 15. So all right, so they're gonna continue to play small things. So that's not a big problem for us. I think yeah, I think we have this game under control. Like the only problem is how are we going to deal with a big bunkus? And I guess we'll use Everyone Stay Clam. It would be good to have a WhataTwist with it though, because Everyone Stay Clam on its own doesn't actually win the game. So if they play a big bunkus, we don't really have a good answer for that. So all right, so we'll remove the penguin who's okay because the penguin who's okay can ice up to 2 cards a turn, and the bottle penguin only 1 card. So the penguin who's okay is better for that. I guess the one thing about the bunkus is we have the hungry penguin. So if they just play 1 bunkus, we'll be able to just hungry penguin it. So we can yeah, so we can do that. So that's not so that'll be okay. Yeah, so then okay, so let's see what else. Yeah, so okay, so we'll have yeah, okay, so we'll go for the win here. Like we'll just play out to get to 14. Right, because if we play Everyone Stay Clam, like right, the way we're going to not win this is if they get 2 large penguins. So if they play 1 bunkus this turn, then we can use Hungry Penguin on the bunkus. But if they get 2 bunkus out, right? Or one Bashful Swordsman. Okay, so Bashful Swordsman. Yeah, but Bashful Swordsman is fine because we'll use Hungry Penguin on that. So, yeah, so I think, yeah, so we'll get rid of the, what's it called? We'll get rid of the blue one. But yeah, so we can basically just use Hungry Penguin on the Bashful Swordsman. And then we should be, unless they have like a WhataTwist, we should be in a good position here. All right, so let's see. So if we win this 5-check, we'll end up winning the game. So, but yeah, okay, cool. All right. So, all right, so we went 2-1, which is not a bad record. And I think, yeah, this deck is actually like, I think the Bunkus matchup is not the best matchup for it. So, yeah, so I think it was, yeah, good set of games for the deck. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.